The Los Angeles Chargers are going to be phenomenal in Jim Harbaugh's first year. I have absolute faith in the former national champion, the reigning national champion, the Super Bowl runner-up, and now the face of LA football. Jim Harbaugh has both culturally and roster-wise flipped this team over while keeping the most important players. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa still on the team. The receivers who were aging out of relevance and injury-prone, gone. Culturally, they went from an incompetent man who couldn't manage a defense and was generally hated in the locker room from what I've heard, to one of the most charismatic, involved, player-friendly coaches in the history of the sport. This is a completely different team, which has gotten better at every position besides receiver. But the changes they've made up front, the improvements to their offensive line, and the health of Justin Herbert tell me this team is going to be successful. Because they can keep Herbert on the field and hopefully keep him out of close games, because we know how he does in those close games, they will win a lot. And part of that is on Herbert being a phenomenal quarterback, having guys like Ladd McConkey, Palmer get open for him, having Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins in the backfield, alleviating pressure far more than their previous running back did on the ground, being productive in the run game, not making their offense one-dimensional. I am so excited. There's no team, now that the Vikings are completely injured and my dreams have been crushed, there's no team I am more excited to watch than the LA Chargers in 2024 under Jim Harbaugh.
The Chargers are going to be good. We're going to see a more complete Chargers team than we did last year. And I think all the videos we've seen from Harbaugh in Chargers camp, it shows just how bad Staley was as a head coach. He's completely turned over the culture. He's motivating players. It's given a whole different vibe to the Chargers organization that has been made fun of in recent years for not having a fan base or really any identity outside of having some really highly paid and talented players. But when it comes to will they contend for a Super Bowl, will they be able to make a push for even the AFC West against the Chiefs, I just don't think their roster is there quite yet. In the receiver room, you went from having Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, who I think are still both going to be productive players next year, even though they are old. You went from those two as your number 1 and 2 option to Joshua Palmer, who was the third guy. You have Ladd McConkey, who's kind of an unknown because he's a rookie. And then you have Quentin Johnston, who's reportedly battling for a roster spot because he can't even break the top 3 rotation. So the receiver room, I think, is a bit sketchy when it comes to being a wildly successful team competing for the division title against the Chiefs and making, making a deep playoff push. And then when it comes to...
I'm going to jump in now because we're going to stay with the receivers. Keenan Allen, I will admit, is a substantial loss. Big acquisition for the Bears. Mike Williams, they didn't have Mike Williams. They had Mike. He played half the year every season. There's no Williams. He had half his production cut off because he kept getting injured. If you want to build a culture, you have to have the guys on the field able to play. And he's a talented player, sure, but to act like you're missing out some superstar receiver who realistically was going to give you 6 games, let's not act like losing him is the biggest issue. Having Ladd McConkey is better than having Mike Williams in the modern NFL. Granted, Ladd McConkey's injury prone too, so I might want to back off that a little bit.
Well, Mike Williams 2 years ago played most of the season, and last year he had the knee injury that took him out for the rest of the year. And the running back situation, I am not a big fan of it. I don't think it's where Jim Harbaugh wants it to be in the long term. I know I've said a lot of positive things about Gus Edwards in the past and about his efficiency, but that's when he was only carrying the ball 150 times a season. Last year when the Ravens needed him to step up and he got close to 200 carries, his efficiency started to go in the toilet. So I'm assuming he's kind of going to be the Chargers' number 1 back day 1. And then you have J.K. Dobbins coming off of a devastating injury again in his career. So I think it's a running back who's not a true number 1, but can be very productive. A running back coming off an injury. And then whatever Kimani Vidal, the rookie running back, is able to give the Chargers.
I mean, Isaiah Spiller is going to contribute a little bit. Let's not act like he doesn't exist. I think he is going to have 50, 60 carries given the volume the Chargers offense is going to be running. And I said it on the Cowboys, I'll say it again. The key to a good running game in the NFL is having a functional offensive line. I think the Ravens had some injuries up front, had their production decrease from an O-line standpoint towards the back half of 2023. Might be why we saw Gus Edwards' production start to dip down a little bit. The Dobbins thing, yeah, having him is a risk. I will certainly agree with that. I can't sit up here and rip on Mike Williams and say, well, actually, J.K. Dobbins. Now, the injuries are concerning for him. The only benefit I can see is maybe he's not going to be on the field much. Maybe he's only going to get 5-10 carries a game, whereas opposed to a wide receiver who's running a sprint every play. Potentially that helps him out a little bit. Certainly it could be better, but it's going to be better than it was last season. It's actually going to be an element of the offense. Jim Harbaugh can lead a team and throw the ball around. We saw it in San Francisco. He can make a team pass if needed to, and Justin Herbert, despite his many faults, is still a good quarterback. So having him alone
Herbert hater over there
should generate a passing attack.
I mean, just to close things out from my end, I think they're going to win some games that shock some people where they win in impressive fashions. And I think because of some lack of talent where it's not where it needs to be yet, they lose some games where we're left a little disappointed because they didn't show up that Sunday, or maybe it's a Monday night game or something along those lines. And I also think the defense is definitely going to be better under Harbaugh because it's been it was a bottom 10 defense every year under Staley.
What a bold and dynamic take. The Chargers are going to both win and lose games, ladies and gentlemen.
They're
going to beat the Chiefs at least once. They're going to get in that 10-win range. And I don't know how the final wild card spot's going to shake out, but they're certainly going to be in the running for, which is completely different than where they were last year with Staley.
Use code Thicc on Underdog Fantasy if you want to participate in their best ball contests. Get bonus cash up to $500. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one.